Had a couple notes written down, right? So one of the things is building trust before the call, right? So it's basically the process that we go through before they get on the call. Just making, like, one thing is Troy's puts me at the bottom of the email when they book the call, right? So they're familiar with my face. So that's one of the first parts. Making sure that as soon as they book the call that I reach out to them, let them know who I am, and basically that I'm just excited to get to know their situation if they have any questions.
Say something unique about them that you noticed by like looking at their profile or their application.
Yeah, like I'll find them on Facebook, friend them on Facebook, something like that, or yeah, basically just trying to find anything to relate to them about before I get on the call so that I can talk about it when I get on the call, which leads me to my next point, which is building rapport is really important right in the beginning of the call. And you kind of want to do it differently based on who you're talking to. So there's certain people that I don't go as hard at rapport and I don't try to like shoot the shit with them as much, but you can kind of tell by like who you're talking to. The guy that I just spoke to today, he was like a very normal human being, very personable, and he wanted to talk like about just normal things for a little bit longer. So that was for like the first 7 to 10 minutes of the call. We were just talking about like life and what Troy and I just did the last week and talking about Metallica and stuff like that. There's other people where I'll hop on the call right away and they don't want any of that shit, right? That's usually more B2B. They're less like that. But you still need a little bit because I'm not closing a $30 million deal. I'm not Leonardo DiCaprio. They don't want to just get right down to business like Wolf of Wall Street, right? It's not like that. People that we're going to be talking to are still like normal human beings, so you need a little bit of rapport. But you can cut a little bit of it out depending on who you're talking to. So that was
We had a previous sales rep. He was not in person. It's another reason. He would wear a lot of hats on the calls.
Yeah, backwards hat, tank
like
tops.
white beaters. I'm like, dude, what are we doing here?
Yeah, and he
he didn't know what rapport was. So he would get on the call with people, and the potential client would talk more than he would. He's like, oh yeah, I'm in Australia. Like, where are you? And he's like, Texas. So let's get started.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. I remember, because that's when I first started working for Troy, I knew that that's like what I wanted to do eventually is get into sales. So I would always just like plant the seed, and that's what you were talking about, focus as well. I'm really focused on sales. I want to get better at sales, so that's like all I really cared about. I did my other work, obviously, but I would always be like, sales, 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 sales. If you need a salesman, I live in that room right there next to the fridge. So, like, I live with you, so you know where to find me. But yeah, he would literally like no rapport, so that's not good. You need to be relatable and personable. Other two quick notes that I had is when you're actually on the call, make sure that you're providing all of the value during the call before you get to the price, right? So make sure that you get into all of their whys, why this is going to work and other things haven't. Make sure that you get all of that out of the way before you get into the price. If you say the price and then you try to provide more value after the price, it sounds like you're trying to justify it. So don't do that. Justify it before. Another thing is once you say the price, shut the fuck up and listen to what they have to say. Like, just be silent. There's nothing wrong with silence on the call. Like today, I was waiting for 10 minutes for him to get his company credit card. I wasn't saying like, this is gonna be really good for you because blah, 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 blah. Like I just muted my mic and just sat there and waited for him to give me his card information. Sometimes silence is better than having to speak. So that's another thing.
It's a good one.
Yep.
I've had calls too before where people like, yeah, I don't have my company card on me. I'm like, dude, you just told me you did $20 million last year. You have your company card on you. And he was like, all right, fine. Pulled it out. So it's just another situation where you have to think like you have power, not just the other person. Like people lie. They're not trying to be deceitful. They're just like a little bit scared to spend money.
Yeah, people like they have money blocks, right? We joke about it all the time, but it's true.
Like a guy with $20 million, I don't know what he did in profit, but like he should not hesitate. He spent $3,500 that day. Like he should not hesitate to spend that kind of money, but people just get weird when it comes to spending money.
Yep. That's very true. Like, don't feel like you can press them if they say something that doesn't make sense. Like, don't be afraid to offend them. Like that, for example, that's a perfect example. It's like, dude, you make $20 million and you don't have your credit card on you right now. Are you kidding me? And he's like, yeah, you're right. I'm just kidding. Like, here's my card information. And then he'll pay you. Just quick is when you're getting into pricing as well, if they want to do a payment plan, the way that we always structure it is like, we don't really typically like doing payment plans unless you need to. Ask them what they're willing to pay. Make them answer what they like want to do, right? So today was a perfect example. He wanted to break it up into 3 payments. So I was like, we don't typically like doing that. But what did you expect to be able to put down today to get instant access, right? And he's like, could we break it up into 3? I was like, maybe, like, what were you thinking? So he wanted to do split 3 payments, right? Everyone can pay more than what they actually say, right? So he wanted to do, it was like $1,666 in 3 payments. So I was like, what if we do $3K today and then we do $1K and $1K the next 2 months? And he sat there for like 2 seconds and he was like, yeah, we can do that. So you can always get more money out of people. Like, they're gonna lie to you about what they can actually pay as
It's
well.
really important to get more down, because then when payments 2 and 3 come out, it's a fraction of what they paid earlier. But if it's even, or if they're paying more on the back end, that's when the card fails, because they don't want to pay it.
Also, if you guys don't have like a lot of clients right now, even though if you're in the spot where like you really need someone to work with, don't just take on anyone, right? Like, there's certain people that I know that are super excited to buy, and I won't let them buy from us because I know that their next payments are gonna fail. So like, I wanna make money, I wanna make Troy money, I wanna make myself money, but I'm also ethical, and I don't wanna put, like, there's some people, one lady told me that she was paying off a loan and then she was like in debt, but she was super excited to join and she would take out another loan. One other person told me that they might not be able to pay for their apartment this month, that's why they need to make money. So I just like provide them with free value and other things that they're able to do besides dropping like like thousands of dollars on a course. Cause like I said, I'm not trying to bury anyone in a hole. Like, sales, you're trying to help people, right? You're not just trying to hard sell people all the time. That's another like mindset shift when you're on a call, is understand that you're trying to help them, you're not trying to sell them. I just thought of something too. Make sure that you build yourselves an SOP for when you're taking the call. Don't go in it without any kind of structure, asking random questions. Like, have certain questions that you know 100% that you're gonna ask. It'll make your life so much easier than when you're just trying to think on the fly of things to say. Like, I have 6 questions that I know 100% that I'm gonna ask them, no matter what they say anyway. It's still important to have just a structure on your call. So.
Yeah, totally.
I think that pretty much
You
covers
just can't
it.
shoot from the hip when you're doing sales. It's
Yeah.
like very, very, very bad. That's why most people struggle. Like, you should always value phone calls more too, because like, think about a conversion rate on a website, like 1, 2, 3% maybe. If it's low ticket, maybe like 7%. But on the phone, you're at like 20, 25%, maybe more if you're on the right person. And if you have rapport with that person, it's like 50%. So like, your odds, like, just get more calls. Like, most people struggle because they literally just don't have enough calls, and they think it's because they didn't like write the right message today, or they didn't like say the right thing. I'm like, no, you just need more calls. Like, most people don't want to put in the work. They don't want to pull out their phone. They don't want to message people. Like, you just need more volume once you have like a solid structure in place. And just start at the beginning of your whole sales process, whether it's the post all the way down to closing somebody, and just like write down the whole process. And wherever you get confused, that's where you need help, and you need to, seek somebody else's input. But just like, start at the top until you're confused, get help, and you just keep fixing the kinks in the hose as you go, starting at the beginning. Because a lot of people are like worrying about stuff that, like, what happens if I close somebody? I'm like, I don't know, just like do the work. Like, close them and then worry about that.
Confidence and transparency, right? You heard me before I went out on the call. I was like, he's like, oh, go and, take that call. And I was like, he's already gonna buy, I already know. You know what I mean? And he bought. So yeah, it's not being cocky. It's like, it's a lot easier to sell something when you believe in what you're selling, right? Like, I know that this program helps people and it gets people results. So the program sells itself. If I'm confident in talking about the program, then he's gonna trust me as well, right? And I'm also transparent. If there's questions that I actually don't know how to answer, I'm not gonna pull something out of my ass and give you an answer, right? I'll tell you that I don't know 100% how to answer that. Obviously, like, if there's objections that are like a little bit dicey and you think that you would be able to answer it, it's also really important to be able to like pivot and answer objections and handle them quickly. But if there's something that like completely stumps you, most of the time it's not gonna make the difference if they're buying or not. They'd rather you tell them, like, honestly, that question, I'm not 100% sure how to answer there. I'm like a little bit confused. They're gonna appreciate that more than if you just say some random bullshit and then you look like an idiot, so.
And as much as possible, you want to systemize this, even if you're a one-person show. Because if this client has 3 deliverables and this one has 4 and this one has 2 and this guy gets something else and this person does something else, like, you're just going to confuse yourself. And like, half the stuff that people are asking for, like, they don't even need. And you're better off just pushing them down the route of like the big needle movers. So anytime somebody is asking for all these extra things, try and evaluate like if those things are actually going to make a difference. And if they don't, then you should probably not work with that person because it's going to distract you from your other clients. Because again, you build a business based off of problems. So if you already have an existing client base and you're solving their problems and somebody else wants something that's outside of the main problems you solve, it's probably going to distract you more and take away your time and energy and focus and happiness if you work with that person. And again, there are so many more calls that you can jump on. There's so many clients to close. You just can't think that it's scarce because a lot of people talk about like money mindset and all that. And there's a lot of woo-woo, but like a lot of it's real.
Sometimes people are going to be like really rude, and you just have to understand that some people are like that. You know what I mean? I don't let it offend me. At first, I was like a little shook, right? When I hop off a call one time, I was like, that guy was a dick, man. But then it was like totally fine because there's so many people that I talk to that aren't, right? Like you were saying with working with certain people, you got to trust your intuition, right? The worst clients are the people that ask for the most and try to sneak in guarantees and stuff like that. You can kind of like vet them out if they're going to be a headache or not.
Don't close somebody if
Yeah.
they have their camera off.
Yeah.
No.
Say that one more time.
Do not close somebody if their Zoom camera's off or if they're taking the call in their car. Like,
Yeah,
don't
make
do
sure
it.
that they're paying attention. I've had people before where I have to stop and I'm like, are you still with me right now?
Yeah, you just
and it's
ask
not being
them.
rude. And they're like, oh, I'm like doing this right now. And I was like, well, do you want to reschedule this for another time? Because clearly you're not paying attention right now, you know?
This dude's 19. Like, that's crazy.